Good morning. Well, it's afternoon here. It's a topic that's been on my mind for a while, and I posted about it yesterday on my personal page and then also in a few groups on Facebook, and I got some interesting, unexpected responses. So I wanted to do just a little live and get your thoughts, get your opinions. I feel this is a topic that is not really talked about, and I don't know, it kind of seems like, in my opinion, in my experience, I thought it was one of those like taboo topics, like it just didn't really exist. So the more that I'm digging into it, the more that I'm realizing that it really is out there. And so I'm doing this live for a few reasons. One, to just kind of document my own story, my own experience, and my own journey with this. But two, to hear your own thoughts and maybe your own experiences. So what I'm talking about is a renaming ceremony. And I'll tell you a little bit about why this has been on my mind and why it's something that I am interested in doing, and why I think it's kind of important. So a renaming ceremony obviously will be a ceremony to have your name changed. This is the name that you are called, the name that you answer to, your legal name, however deep you want to get into it. And so my personal story is a little bit interesting, and so I just kind of want to share it to get your guys' opinion on, not that your opinion would sway my decision one way or another, but again, I think this is one of those topics that just are not talked about. So I'm curious. I'm just curious your thoughts, and maybe they will help shift some knowledge in my journey, if anything. So my story is this. I was born, obviously, to my parents. My mom had picked out names that were ancestral names. They were names after my grandmothers. My dad hated the names and did not want to follow through with naming those. So I was actually kept in the hospital. My parents were kept in the hospital for 3 days. For 3 days I had no name while they fought back and forth on what to name me. And finally on the 3rd day, the nurses came in and said that you have to go home. We got to kick you out. You're taking up space in the maternity ward. It's time for you to leave, but you can't leave until you assign your child a name. And so out of, desperation, they had to leave the hospital. My dad was not bending on his leniency to change the name to go with the ancestral names that my mother had picked out. So my mom was the one that had to say, okay, just name her what you want to name her, and we're not going to give her an ancestral name. So my dad gave me some names from the Bible, Sarah Christine, and that's what they told the hospital in order for us to leave. So just stopping there for a moment before even going further, imagine on a subconscious or spiritual level for a moment that the first 3 days of your entire existence, your own parents don't even know who you are. And imagine the imprint that leaves on a deep subconscious spiritual level. And the more that I've been thinking about this, I've been talking with my mom a lot about this. She's deeply, deeply, deeply in this conversation and in this decision with me. And she realizes as well, like, having me alive here in this realm for 3 days with no name left a huge imprint on my own knowing of who I am. And it showed up in huge cycles throughout my lifetime, of me just hitting rock bottom, not knowing who I am, not knowing who I'm supposed to be. Obviously, I'm doing really good today, but that doesn't come without its own struggles. Like, it's been really hard for me to get here. I've pushed really, really hard to get where I am. I feel like a lot of that has been like paddling upstream in a way. And I totally get it. Like, nobody's life is super easy. Nobody's life is perfect. But I definitely feel like at a subconscious level that had imprinted something very drastic in my life, in my energy footprint. And so then going forward, as I grew up, I hated my name. I always hated it. And I remember I was homeschooled mostly, but there was a brief time period when I went to like elementary school. So like 2nd grade, I think. I don't even know how old that is, like 6 years old or something, 6 or 7 years old. I don't know what grades or what age. I don't know what age 2nd grade is. But I remember in school, even back then, trying to change my name because I hated the name Sarah. So my middle name is Christine, and I hated that name too. So I used Chris as my name in 2nd grade. And I remember, obviously, way different experience in the 80s than it is today. So I was totally bullied for having a boy name. And, but I was better being bullied with a boy name than having my birth name, because I hated it that much. It never, ever, ever felt right. Let me read this comment. Only our soul creators know our real name. I love my first and middle name, the family name. I'm kind of meh about it. I definitely believe that we are given a name from the soul creators, absolutely. And that's kind of my story, is I feel like my mother had that name to give me, and then it was my father who changed that. And ever since then, things have been kind of out of whack. So as I grew up, I mean, I ended up going back to Sarah because it was just easier, and I was homeschooled, so obviously my mom is going to call me by my birth name. But I never grew out of that. And I hear all the time, oh yeah, you know, kids always hate their name, but they grew out of it. I never, ever, ever grew out of it. I just always hated the name Sarah. And not to say that I hate, like, Sarah's an ugly name. No, I'm not saying that at all. It just never felt like my name. It felt like when somebody calls to me and they say, hey, Sarah, it never felt like they're talking to me. It's this really strange feeling. And it wasn't for many, many years, like way into my adult years, that my mom told me that I actually was supposed to have ancestral names, names after my grandmothers. And she told me these names, and the moment she said them, I felt like for the first time I was being talked to. My name was being called, and it was the craziest feeling ever. And that was years ago still. And kind of with that knowledge, I was just like, okay, well, I wasn't supposed to be a Sarah. I was supposed to have this other name, and that felt right. That felt real. That felt like my truth. But then I'm just like, well, oh well, what do you do with that? Like, we're living in a time when people don't really change their names unless you get married, and then you just change your last name, and it's like this huge process and all this paperwork and all this money and all of the things. And so for a long time I was just like, okay, well, I wasn't supposed to have this name, but I'm just gonna, you know, keep pushing through. Like, the thought of changing my name never even occurred to me, because that's not something you ever hear about. So anyway, so I've been continuing my journey, going on, and it keeps coming up, and it keeps coming up over and over and over again. It's coming up more and more and more now. And again, I've been talking with my mom about it, and again, she never felt like Sarah was supposed to be my name. She says herself when she calls to me, it's not like she's calling to me, because she never felt like my name was supposed to be Sarah. And so then I started like dabbling in like, okay, well, what if I were to change my name? Like, how do you even start that? What do you even do? How does that, like, that's a huge process. You have to tell your friends, you have to change everything. Do people even do that? And so just briefly, I started getting into like the history of name changes, and it goes back to the beginning of humanity. People were always changing their names. Your name was changed when you hit adulthood. Your name was changed if you were initiated into a religion or an order or a village or anything of importance. If you were initiated into like a hunting group, your name was changed. It happened constantly, all the time, in cultures all over the world. And then what I was discovering was it started to stop happening when like the Christian movement came in, and the pagans and the indigenous people were given Christian names, and then that was kind of the end of it. And then you weren't really allowed to change your name anymore. And if you wanted to change your name, it was hundreds and hundreds of dollars, huge process, mountains of paperwork, huge fees, legal battles, and they made it like really impossible to change your name. So I just kind of like, in my head, I'm like, all right, well, that makes a little bit of sense. Doesn't help the process. It kind of makes it like a little bit more difficult to move forward, because they purposely are making it so hard. But then I started like putting my feelers out, and yesterday I made a post. And I've been putting my feelers out before too, but yesterday in this post, it kind of just like connected a whole bunch of dots. And I made a post in my page, and then I made that same post in several Facebook groups as well. And what I did was I asked people their thoughts on a name changing ceremony. And let me read this. Ira says the three names name in Christian religion made the Bible always first name, son or daughter of a one named mother or father. We're meant to have just one name, as you said. It's more tribe properly than a society role or religious role of several names. Yeah, well, the religions definitely shifted that all around for sure. And I think also what religion did was they gave you a Christian name to be what's the word I'm looking for? To be called on, to be recognized as, to be that's not the right word, to be documented. They give you a name to be documented. Your name was not of importance. It was the religious people came over, they said, I don't like your indigenous name because I can't pronounce it, so your name is John, or your name is Peter, or whatever it is, and we're going to document you that way because that's how we want to say it, right? And that's what it was. And they took away the importance. They took away the ceremony of the names and all of that. And so anyway, so I made this post yesterday about just getting people's ideas on name changes and doing a ceremony for that. And so many people are doing it. And it blew my mind. And I think it's one of those things where like, it's not a topic that's talked about anymore. I think because of the negative connotations that society and religion have put on it now, unfortunately, they've taken something so beautiful, so ceremonial, so important, and flipped it like they do with everything. And it's not openly done anymore. It's not openly talked about. If 10 years ago somebody told me they were just changing their name, I would have been like, well, that's weird, dumb, don't do that. Why would you do that? Like, I would judge that because that's what I grew up believing. I grew up in a Christian family and I was put into that box, right? Maybe not 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. But and that's kind of like what we're forced to kind of set our mind around, like, this is what you're given, stick with it. And it doesn't allow for spiritual growth. It doesn't allow for initiation and ceremony into stepping into who you are supposed to be, who you're meant to be. And oh, that's really cool, Ira. And yeah, just Ira says the name you see on my profile is what I go by. And I'm seeing so many people with that right now. Like, you don't necessarily have to do the whole legal aspect of it. So many people are going by names that they are feeling drawn to, that they feel connected with. And right away in one of the posts I made, somebody was actually going through the legal process of changing her name. She had a spiritual awakening, and she was changing her name legally to that name that she was given in that spiritual awakening. And I think that's so beautiful, and it's not talked about enough. It's definitely one of those things where, like, again, for years and years and years, I didn't even know it was an option to change my name. I was just like, well, my name's Sarah. It's the name I was born with. It doesn't fit me. I've never thought it fit me. My mother never thought it fit me, but what do? I'm just going to die with the name Sarah. But no, we don't have to do that. And I mean, it's definitely a scary process. Like, I'm very much in the new beginnings of figuring this all out, deciding if this is something I really want to do or not. Because of course, like, they don't make it easy. I've run my own business for years. I would have to change everything. And that's really daunting. And then you get into the whole questions of, okay, well, are my family and friends going to support me? Or half the people are going to be calling me Sarah, and half of the people are going to be calling me by my new name. And there's just like, there's a lot of fear in that. And I think there's so much fear in it because it's a topic that's not talked about. It's not openly discussed. It's just not something you see anywhere. And I've been part of the pagan community for years and years and years. I've seen it a little bit there, but it's more of just like, you just change your Facebook profile name, and that's where it ends. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's beautiful. And I hope those people carry that into their physical world as well and are having their friends and family call them by that name. I don't know. I don't know them on like a face-to-face level, just online. But maybe that is what they're doing. I don't know. It's not talked about enough. Nobody really explains these things. So anyway, super long rant, but I want to document this. I want to document this journey for myself so I can go back on it and look over it and kind of see the process of it. And as well, I want to document it for anyone else who may be feeling similar ways about their name. So I have deciding. It's not set in stone yet. There's a lot my mind is processing. There's a lot I am researching still. There's a lot that I'm going through. But I am deciding on going with my grandmother's names of Emma Elizabeth and calling my ancestry back into my life. I've always been connected with my ancestry. I literally do ancestral work. That's the whole basis of my work. And to not have that ancestral name connection has always felt like a disconnect. And that might just all be in my head. And that's totally fine if it is. But I think there's a lot of importance in me taking the name I was supposed to be called and adding in the importance that it was my grandmother's name. It was my great-grandmother's name. And yeah, I don't know. So anyway, again, I'm blurting out all of my thoughts here. And if you guys have anything you want to share, any questions you have, any thoughts you have about it, like, this is an open space. I'm really curious about the process that people have already been doing. My mind was blown at how many people responded to my post. And then how many, like, I did some post searches on name changes, and how many people are doing it right now. And it's amazing, but nobody's talking about it. Like, it's such a weird, it's one of those like almost taboo things. And once you get under that level of it being hidden, you see so much of it coming through. So many people are doing it, but it's being done in a very hidden, secret way. And it's kind of like all of a sudden somebody on your Facebook, their name will change. And you don't know why. You don't know if it's really them. Maybe somebody made a fake Facebook and used their picture. Like, there's no story behind what's going on. It just kind of like, boom, it's done. And nobody's talking about it. So I think there's a lot of importance in bringing awareness, bringing knowledge to name changing, bringing back the ceremony, the initiations into it. I'm not saying everybody needs to go out and change your name, obviously not. But I'm saying not to allow it to be such a taboo topic anymore. And I'm a firm believer, I teach it every week in Goddess Gathering, that knowledge is power. And if we don't know enough information on a topic, we're going to fear it. If you don't know why people want it to change their name, or what the importance of a name change is, you're going to look at it and be like, well, that's really stupid. Why would you do that? Because we're not knowledgeable enough in the topic. So the more we learn, the more we connect with other people that are doing it ceremonially, that are doing it in initiations, that are doing it for whatever reasons, the more we connect with people like that, the more we learn about this stuff, the more we can, be open to the possibility that it doesn't need to be some hidden topic anymore. And I see my mom just got on. Hi, Mom. I'm just talking about my name changing. and yeah, she will attest to you that I was never supposed to be named Sarah Christine at birth, and that it never felt right. So yeah, anyway, there's my story. Again, I'm really just documenting this for myself and for anyone else who wants to listen, or who's maybe on the same journey themselves. And we can kind of just like go on this journey together. So I spent the morning writing a blog about pretty much everything that I've talked about today, with also a list of like my fears behind changing my name and what that would look like. And again, would friends and family support me? Would it be too much of a hassle? All of that stuff. So what I'm going to do with this blog, and I'll probably keep doing live videos as well, is I will be updating the blog throughout the process, so that if I decide 100% to go with my new name, it's not just going to be some like random name change on my Facebook profile that nobody knows the story behind. everyone will see the why of it and bring understanding to that. And I feel like that's really, really important. Knowledge is power. There's importance in knowing the why. So anyway, there's my story. Just wanted to share that. Felt I needed to kind of get that out and off my chest. And in a way, this also, what's the word? It energetically starts this journey of a name change. Whereas before, as I'm just like sitting with it, mulling it over, that doesn't really give action or energy to it moving forward. So as I'm here talking with you guys, sharing my story, writing the story out in blog form, it gives energy and power to it moving forward and making movement. So there it is. There's my story. And again, share your thoughts with me. Share your ideas. Maybe you know somebody who's done it before. Maybe you are thinking about wanting to do it. Maybe you think it's totally crazy. I don't care. Whatever your thoughts are, share them with me, because knowledge is power. The more we know about the whole, the better. So thank you for listening to my rant, and I will see you guys all later. Bye.